Hello, everyone. Jay? Jay? Hey! All right, everybody, ladies. It's one of the few nights we can actually say ladies and gentlemen in the room. So tonight, thank you, everybody, for showing up. Sorry, we apologize for running a little bit late. Incidents outside of our control, which we're very sorry to hear about. And with that, I'd like to introduce Brother Wayne Knight from Brother Wayne Smith from Western Knights number 56, who's going to be telling the Prince Hall story tonight. So please give him a welcoming round of applause and enjoy the story. And I'm sure we'll be happy to what you left us. Wayne.
Thank you, Brother Redock and Brothers Sullivan, Staircase number 357. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to fellowship with you and to visit. On behalf of my lodge, Western Knights Lodge number 56, I send greetings. And I'm so happy to see the brethren from my lodge come out to support me as well. So again, thank you for coming out to hear the story of our founder, Prince Hall, a great American, and was the first Grand Master associated with our first Grand Lodge and its expansion. His name is carried and borne by Masonic organizations throughout the United States. We in America celebrated 1976 with the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. 1976 was also the 201st anniversary of Prince Hall Masonry in the United States. Although little is known about the circumstances of his birth or his early childhood, in Barbados, West Indies, where it is rumored that he was born, a search in baptismal church records were examined without find to the name Prince Hall. The first official record we have of him were found in a manumission paper found in the Boston Athenaeum. Manumission papers were utilized at that time period to free slaves. This document was filed by the William Hall family in 1770. The document states in part that Prince Hall lived with and served the William Hall family for 21 years. And on April 9, 1770, Prince Hall received his release from the bonds of slavery. This would have made Prince Hall approximately 35 years old, making the year of his birth 1735. Prince Hall was a diligent man, conducting his business as a leather dresser and caterer at the Sign of the Golden Fleece on Water Street, Boston, Massachusetts, hiring large numbers of free black men for his catering affairs. The Sign of the Golden Fleece was not a tavern, as some believe, but rather a place where Prince Hall had a shop and subsequently a meeting place for African Lodge number 1. A significant event occurred in Masonry on March 2nd, 1775. On this day, Prince Hall and 14 other free black men received the 3 degrees of Freemasonry by being initiated into the fraternity into Lodge number 441, a military lodge working under the Grand Lodge of Ireland and attached to one of the regiments of the British Army under the command of General Cage. Lodge number 441 eventually moved to New York State. The relocation of the lodge did not leave our black brethren without covering, because the worship master, Brother John Batt, left with them what was known at that time a permit. Today would be termed a dispensation. This permit gave our black brethren the right to assemble on St. John's Day and to bury their dead in manner and form. This permit was legal and regular in every particular, having been issued in accordance with the usage and custom at that time period. The permit, however, did not give our black brethren the authority to initiate other persons into the fraternity. Prince Hall enlisted as a soldier in the Revolutionary War and served in the 2nd and 6th Regiments of Massachusetts with steadiness and valor. It was said he was not only a great soldier, but also a great statesman. As the years passed, and with the war ending in 1783, Prince Hall saw the need for Masonic recognition. He felt it best to send to the fountains from whence he had received the light world one and on March 2nd, 1784, unsuccessfully petitioned the Grand Lodge of England for a charter. This letter of request was signed only as Prince Hall and was probably deemed an insufficient application on behalf of the lodge. Fees sent but not received were the apparent reason for England's failure to send the charter. A second letter was then drafted with Prince Hall signing it as Master of African Lodge No. 1, attested to by K.O. Underwood, Secretary. 3 years later, a third request was made for a charter, with Prince Hall selecting as his messenger Captain James Scott, the brother-in-law of John Hancock, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Captain Scott delivered the letter and additional fees, successfully returning the 3-year-old warrant under the denomination of African Lodge No. 459. Prince Hall acknowledged receipt of the charter in a letter to England and added, "By the grace of God, I shall endeavor to fulfill all that is required of me in the charter, and I shall make the Constitution my guide." Charter No. 459 is now in the possession of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Free and Accepted Masons of Massachusetts, and it's secured under lock and key. Some of us have seen it treasured, for it is believed to be the only original extant 18th century charter issued to any American lodge by the Grand Lodge of England, and is therefore of the most important historical significance to Prince Hall Masons. Prince Hall made a significant impact on society during his life. Among his many accomplishments, he petitioned General George Washington to admit men of color into the Continental Army. Of further note, Prince Hall distinguished himself at Bunker Hill. He led the entire lodge membership in support of Governor Bowden during the rebellion of Daniel Shane's group. He petitioned the Massachusetts State Legislature for funds to educate children of color. He opened his home as a school to educate adults of color. He again petitioned the Massachusetts State Legislature to grant to all citizens of color the right to own real property and to vote in all elections. African Grand Lodge was organized in Boston, Massachusetts in 1791 by an assembly of the crowd, with Prince Hall as its first Grand Master. Prince Hall passed into that great unknown on December 4th, 1807. At the General Assembly of the crowd in 1808, the name African Grand Lodge was changed to Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Free and Accepted Masons of Massachusetts, with the Deputy Grand Master, Brother Nero Prince, succeeding Prince Hall as Grand Master. With Masonic growth and expansion, Prince Hall Masonry moved south and west. It takes 3 or more lodges to form a Grand Lodge. Hannibal Lodge No. 1 of San Francisco, Philomathian Lodge No. 2 of Sacramento, and Victoria Lodge No. 3 of San Francisco are the 3 lodges that formed our great Grand Lodge in San Francisco, California on June 19, 1855. Hence, the 9th Grand Lodge was formed, titled Grand Lodge, Ancient, Free and Accepted York Masons. It was later titled Sovereign Grand Lodge. We now bear this distinguished title of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Free and Accepted Masons of the state of California, Incorporated. Thank you very much, brothers. It's been a pleasure. And again, for having me and my brothers here to give you a lecture on Prince Hall. And we are truly blessed to visit with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Wayne. So why don't we open the floor if anybody has any questions? Brother Wayne, you want to come back up here just in case somebody has some questions?
I may be calling one of my past masters and my senior warden and senior deacon as well. Any questions? Sir.
I just want to see, are there any of the tour that you went on? Is that something you guys went on as a lodge, or is that
Brother,
something
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Is when you guys went to Boston, is that something you guys arranged yourself, or is that a tour, or something that's scheduled?
That used to occur every 10 years. Prince Hall Masonic pilgrimage, but I believe now it's every 2 years. So
Is that something that's offered like through a website or through a lodge in particular?
normally it's in, we're notified, well, we all know it's every 2 years, and we'll make our plans accordingly to go out and see the original charter issued to the Grand Lodge, by the Grand Lodge family.
I was actually wondering how many Prince Hall lodges there are in California.
California, there are, I'm not sure the exact number, brother. I'm going to say there's about anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 Prince Hall Masons in the state of California. So I don't have the exact number of lodges.
How long
Brother
have you
Hayes.
been in the craft?
I'm sorry?
How long have you personally been in the craft?
Since 2009.
Speak very eloquently for only being Mason that long.
Masonry is very dear to me. It's, when you know how it is when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Besides your family and doing what you need to do as a Mason.
How open are you guys to having visitors?
We love visitors. We often have visitors from across the pond, as a matter of fact. And, one of your brothers asked if he could carpool with me in a couple of weeks. So, as you know, I live around the corner. And I can come here and we'll all just carpool together. I've got a nice sized van. And, go down and visit with my brethren.
What night do you guys meet?
Every first Thursday.
First and third Thursday, okay.
Yeah. We'd love to have you, brothers.
And I think that'll be a good field trip night. We'll pick a third Thursday when we don't have something planned already, and that'd be a good night to caravan from here.
Absolutely.
Let's see, what could you share with us because you've been to a couple of our degrees and some of our meetings. What are the things you could share, knowing it's an open room, that are different, maybe in the dress, maybe some of the mannerisms between our lodge and yours?
The dress is different, and I travel often to other lodges. And, you guys are similar to the lodge in Arizona, very casual. With Prince Hall, we always wear our black suits and our white gloves. I like seeing the casual attire because all we need is that apron, right? So I do like that. I also enjoyed seeing the differences with the senior deacon and steward, the senior deacon specifically, with the handling of the rod, of his rod.
For those of you who didn't see us back in the corner, and we were kind of sharing, so for those of you who are Masons, you might ask, just to kind of see some of the differences, even in just the deacon work with the rods, how they hold the rods. It's interesting. It's different.
It's nice to travel to see, from jurisdiction, recognized jurisdictions to see differences. Brother Hayes.
Brother Wayne, I think that the times that you came when we had some degree work was during the summer, which one of the benefits of being the master of the lodge is you can kind of dictate different attire. So we kind of have not really a standing rule, but when it gets hot, we go to our what we call our Hawaiian wear.
Yeah.
So I think you came during some of our Hawaiian wear, but most of the times we wear our tuxes for at least stated meetings and degrees. So, but just when you roll up, because the sun sets us in the west, as we know.
Yes.
And that parking lot, and that when you come in there and you're in a tux, you just.
Yeah, the other difference.
We like to switch our wear to be comfortable during the degrees.
The other thing that I enjoy seeing with the candidate is the way and the location of him being interrogated. So,
One of the interesting things, as Chuck said, about sitting in the East, getting the choice. So for our stated meeting, I'm trying to mix things up a little bit. So for our next stated meeting, we're going to have goofy tie night. So we'll be in tuxes, but whatever kind of goofy tie you want. And then going on just a word of wisdom, we've got the Robert Burns dinner coming up on the 25th, so several people will either be purchasing kilts or renting kilts. So March's stated meeting will be wear a kilt if you got it.
Sounds expensive.
Yes.
It depends on what you do after the lodge.
The kilt itself, aren't they expensive?
Yes.
Yeah, depends on what you call expensive.
Yeah.
Have your wife make one cheaper.
Yeah, there were a few performers recently on stage. And after that night, I got so many texts and calls from non-Masons. Okay, what's that all about? So, but you have to explain to people who are not Masons, to people who are on stage who are not Masons, but coming off as Masons, for example. Just have to explain it. Educate them.
I have a question. Do the Prince Hall lodges have concordant bodies like the D. Malays and the Job's Daughters for the kids?
Yes. We have the Pythagorean Knights for the boys. I'm not sure what the girls are.
They have Eastern Star, right?
We have all the youth bodies.
Oh yeah, we have Eastern Stars, the Eastern Stars, the Oil Ladies.
We have Eastern Star, Golden Circle, and also have Daughter License.
Like for the shrines.
So they do have the
Yes.
concordant bodies.
So I have another question. So I know one thing where we've noticed either from brethren visiting us or brethren who visited other states, different states have different ritual. So is it the same with Prince Hall? Is it consistent across the states, or do you find from state to state the rituals are different?
They are different from state to state.
They're very different. A group of brothers just in December, we went and visited with the Grand Lodge for Prince Hall in Washington, D.C., and their work is very different. Even their dew guards and things are very. They end up the same, but the way they present it is different. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It's actually pretty nice to see though when you
It is.
see it. It's interesting. But yeah, it's different from state to state.
Any other questions? All right. Well, again, Brother Smith, thank you very much for joining us.